So I missed you guys last week. Had a good vacation. Went to the beach, spent the night in New Orleans. But here's a little confession. I actually really like to shop. And on vacation, I like to go to all the stores to see the things that I didn't know I needed. And I went to this one store, and I found a rubber ducky Jesus. It's limited edition, because there's only so many heretics out there. I had to have it, because he was holding a sheep. And I thought it went well with this morning's gospel reading. But then I showed it to Patty when she walked in and said, well, at least they got him walking on water. He's holding a sheep, and we have the story of Jesus. This gospel is more about the shepherd than it is about the sheep. The shepherd who leaves the 99 goes after the one and puts it around his shoulders. So I thought, well, I was talking to one of my other pastor friends who said that he knew somebody who actually preached a sermon with a sheep around his shoulders, and it made a mess on him. So I thought, well, I could do something like that. So I Googled, how much does a sheep weigh? And it said between 75 pounds and 300. And so then I thought, well, okay. So I didn't want to do the bare minimum. So today I'm going to preach with 76 pounds around my shoulders. This may be the dumbest thing I've ever done. Okay. Immediately we got this. So we have this parable of the sheep who gets lost. Jesus tells this parable. And the shepherd who leaves the 99 to go after the sheep. This tells us more about the shepherd. But let's pretend for a minute that it's about the sheep. And I don't know much about sheep. But from what I do know about sheep is that sheep aren't very smart. Sheep are prone to wander. Sheep are really kind of only focused on themselves. Their head is down and they're eating. And they tend to wander because they're focused on themselves. I was reading an article this week about my generation, the Generation Y. And it said that one of the characteristics of Generation Y is that we all think that life is a story and we're the main character. I guess that rings true. And so if that's true, then everyone else in the story is just a supporting character. And there's antagonists, and you're the protagonist. And but if that's true, then everyone else, if they're supporting your story, your relationship is just, how can you support my story? And there's no, what can I do to support you in your story? The claim was that my generation is a generation that is only focused on ourselves, much like a sheep. And I think that if we only focus on ourselves, it is very easy to get lost. It is very easy to go astray. And so, what can we do to stay with the flock? What can we do to stay where we should be? Remember, last year in our stewardship campaign, we asked for everyone to pledge to pray and to read a chapter of the Bible every year. Do you remember that? Because I think those are good benchmarks for staying with the flock, is to pray and to read the Bible. I think it's good to have benchmarks that kind of let you know that you're on the right path. I use a GPS when I go somewhere. Anyone else use a GPS? We drove back from Florida yesterday and we had the GPS. We put it in and it told us what time we were going to get in last night. It was so good. Does anyone else think, I can beat that? Does anyone else think that? I can beat the GPS, so I race the GPS. But before GPSs, you use benchmarks, right? Landmarks to know where you're going. When we visit Michelle's sister who lives outside of St. Louis, a little ways out in the country, we know that as soon as we pass the red barn, we need to turn left in a little bit, right? I mean, growing up, we all knew landmarks or benchmarks. As soon as I hit that, I know I need to turn or I'm close. And so I think reading the Bible and praying, then I was thinking, you know, the church is probably supposed to be a pretty good benchmark for staying with the flock. But then I read another article this week that celebrities who were willing to open up about their atheism. And one celebrity talked about how she said that she thought religion was just an excuse to be a mean person. She said, all the religious people I know are mean, but because of their religion, they just have to say I'm sorry and they're forgiven. Notice she was asked about God. She started talking about religion. And another one said that, you know, religious people just aren't very nice people. I try to be a nice person. And if God does exist, I think God would like me. Notice, he started talking about religion and religious people when asked about God. I think the church is supposed to be a benchmark for people to look at. But it hasn't done a good job. I have talked to a lot of people who aren't going to church. And I've never heard one person say, you know, I went to that church and they were really welcoming and everyone's voice was heard and they took me seriously and they really made me feel like part of the family. But I just decided to sleep in on Sunday. I've never heard that. I've heard people say, you know, I went to that one church and they were fighting and the people who had been there a long time would say things like, oh, I'm sorry, we just don't do that here. And I thought, you know what? It's not worth it. And so I stopped going. And you know what? I don't miss it. I think it's important as the church to realize that we are an important landmark for people. And we can either push them further away from the flock or we can bring them closer to the flock. But then there's the story of the coin. And the thing about the coin is, the lost coin, it's not the coin's fault that it's lost. When you lose your keys, it's not your keys' fault. Sorry. And so that I think there are certain times in this world where this is a sinful, broken world that we live in, and there are things that we experience that we really can't do anything about. And it's just part of being a lost coin. I've read a lot about Syria, and I don't know the right answer. I don't know what we're supposed to do, if anything. I don't know if we can do anything that's going to save anyone's life. When it comes to Syria, I feel like a lost coin. I don't even know how to talk about it. It's just part of being in a broken world. So what does God do? What does God do? Well, in the story, in the parable, Jesus said God comes to us. God comes to us when we're furthest away from the flock. God looks for us when we're a coin that can't help but be lost. God comes to us and carries us back. I had a dog when I was on internship a few years ago. My dog's name was Bolt because my dog liked to bolt. And I got the dog while I was on an internship, and I had this little apartment, so I'd take the dog outside, and every time I take the dog outside, it would just start running. It was the cutest little dog. And it ran away one day, and it took me forever to chase it down. And when I found it, this dog laid on its back. It was the cutest little dog. Put its arms up in the air and said, "Don't hurt me, I'm cute." Side note for that dog. I took it home, and I flew back to Texas to propose to Michelle, and my mom babysat that dog for a week, and I came back and I never got the dog back. But it was a good treat. That was bad. Blame it on the 75 pounds, 76 pounds. That was stupid. So this dog lays on his back and says, I'm cute, don't hurt me. How many of you when you were young did something bad and hid? Because you didn't want someone to find you. Zachary, yeah, I see your hand fly up, Zachary. You hide because you don't want your parents to find you, because when they find you, they're going to be what? They're going to be mad. And you're going to get in trouble. And so you hide. When God finds us, what is the word? God rejoices that we've been found. We need not be afraid of when God finds us. God rejoices, laughs, smiles, is excited to see us, no matter how far away we've been. We need not fear God. And as often as we go, God will come after us and carry us back. I gotta tell you, this weight is heavy. I'm sweating. This is no fun at all, actually it hurts. And this is what God will do over and over and over again. But God realizes, you know what? I can do this over and over and over again, and I can keep coming and get you. Or I can just do something that will make you part of the flock, no matter where you are, no matter how far away you roam. This hurts. But I would do this any day of the week, as opposed to having nails put in my hands and feet. Amen.